Hi everyone, this is Kyle with kayDbait. I wanted to make a video on something that I've had trouble with in the past, especially growing up, which is indoctrination, or the idea of somebody pressuring you to believe something or live a certain way. And there's a lot of different ways of people doing this, and the most basic one is parenting, which is not bad, because you're raising them to be better. You're raising them to be a certain way so they fit in society, so that they're not damaging or destructive to themselves or others. So in some ways it is good, because you are teaching them about pretty much catching them up on the thousands of years of culture that we've had. But I've always had a problem with blindly accepting authority, blindly accepting the ideas of the masses, or the ideas of the people that are talking to me, without explanation. And that's where I believe indoctrination or manipulation, or the idea of coercion, or any of those kinds of, something's not quite right, I want to ask questions and they're not answering them issues. And I think that's the main difference between being fair and being bad. I've had friends who I respected a lot, who I've had conversations with, that were they're intelligent, they're articulate, they're aware, but they've come across more persuasive people and have kind of stopped asking questions and stopped looking for answers. And they're being given these ideas that are they're not something that can be built on. They're only within this very small bubble. And when that happens, I feel like they're losing a part of themselves and just becoming this kind of mass of self-reinforcing. It's a group, it's like a cult, and those, I believe, are very damaging. So this video it's kind of trying to explain the differences between the good kind of guiding somebody and the bad kind of manipulating. Manipulation is usually about control, or some kind of system to prevent deviance, to prevent people from not being the norm that they have established. And that isn't to say that they're all bad. There are certain things like the penal system in the United States, the kind of, it's a pseudo kind of rehabilitation that we have within the prisons. It's supposed to be much larger. It's supposed to be full-on rehabilitation, but the idea behind rehabilitation is to say, hey, you're wrong. You have to understand that you were wrong, so that you can fit into it, so you can fit back into society. You have your punishment. We're not here to crush you. We're here to help you. And that's what I mean by we kind of have that in the penal system, but it's not really implemented very well. But then you also have the opposite of that, which is people that are being recruited for crime, recruited for these kind of backdoor, black market kind of things. And those kinds are usually, you prey on the weak-minded, the weak-willed, and you try to get people to do what you want because you profit from it. You yourself are the mastermind behind, or just an implement of somebody who is the mastermind, spreading this chaos, this destruction for your own benefits. And it's a much more complicated, much larger thing than just one-on-one. But that's where it starts. It's one person talking to or around, or influencing a situation around somebody. And it becomes unfair when it's being used not for the benefits of these people. You're either doing it for yourself, or you're doing it for some larger kind of, it'll benefit me in the long run, or I believe I'm right, even though I'm just another step in the indoctrination, because it's a self-perpetuating issue. Because if you've been indoctrinated or brainwashed into believing you're right, and then you teach the next person and they teach the next person, you all believe you're right, but that doesn't mean you are. And that is another thing that causes problems. If you are not allowed to deviate in any way without some kind of a disproportionate kind of punishment to maximize the fear or the even cultural backlash to deviance. And I use the word deviance not in a term like illegal deviance, like harming children or doing something that is just reprehensible morally. I'm talking about deviance as in being an individual, being the kind of person that is not the norm, but does not damage the norm. And when I use the term the norm, I'm talking about social normalities, the status quo, just the average Joe kind of thing. Hey, that rhymed. I wasn't planning on that, but when somebody indoctrinates or brainwashes, it's not necessarily with permission. It's not something that somebody would sign up for knowingly. Like even the most damaged individual seeking help, they're not seeking brainwashing, they're not seeking indoctrination, they're seeking guidance, they're seeking understanding so that they can compensate. And I know that there are people that are just completely nuts, and that they do require somebody to have an established a system in place to prevent them from exacting their will upon the world. And that's why we have the penal system. That's why we have insane asylums. But those are very extreme cases that are involving people that have messed up brain chemistry, that have they might have been raised a very, very bad way, and that their worldview is completely twisted, and you do have to correct that. But that is the extreme, and I don't think that we can ever fully, within our society currently, prevent that. We can compensate, we can respond to that and try to help, but many times it's invisible to us. We don't understand it very well. We don't know how to respond to it very well, especially when there's fear or anger involved. And so we lash out in ways that are more damaging than helping. And I think that's why understanding all of this is very important. Understanding that we're not here to stop deviance. We're here to prevent damage to everyone, because sometimes the people that deviate from the societal norms are the ones that are targeted, are the ones that are harmed the most. And it's not because they're different, it's because people don't want them to be different. It's because people don't like that there are people that they don't understand wandering around doing their own thing, and they look at that person, or they look at what the person's doing, and it's like, I don't like this, I'm going to harm them. And that is an actual very common occurrence. And it is this cultural kind of acceptance that there are people that are different, and you're allowed to target them in little ways, not necessarily criminal ways, but it's like, oh, boys will be boys, or they had it coming, or there's this kind of blasé response to a lot of the kind of messed up, like really messed up stuff that happens. And I want to understand why we don't correct that, like that cultural kind of not dogma, but it's like we don't talk about it because it's hard to talk about, because it's unpopular, and popularity should never be the driving force for the hard topics, because it's never going to be popular. It's going to be dramatized when something bad happens around it, but then that's political juggling. It's like, oh, this happened, how can I benefit from this? How can I hurt somebody else for this kind of stuff? And that's why after a major shooting, it's always the mentally handicapped or the mentally deranged or the sexually deranged. And then it's not an equal footing for how you look at it. So again, this is a very long-winded way of describing deviance. There are problems that need to be addressed, but this isn't about it being smother it. This isn't about a all-encompassing, you are deviant, therefore you must be fixed. And that's the main difference between guiding and brainwashing. And I think that the conversation is it's an avoided thing, especially when related to powerful figures, because it's not something anyone will really agree on right now. People are more focused on the easier, yes or no stuff. It's not the nuances. Nuance tends to create a divide because people don't want to talk about it. They want the divide. So you start it, you have 5,000 people on this side screaming, 5,000 people on that side screaming. The divide is made. No, you try to have the middle ground, they attack it. And I think that's why people don't talk about it very much, because you get attacked. I've been attacked. It's kind of funny, but it's not physically, but I'm sure some of them did threaten me that if they knew where I lived, I would be dead by now. But that's another form of manipulation. That's threats of violence or threats of repercussion for being, associating with, or defending something, or just not attacking something. And that kind of pressure on somebody that's not capable of defending themselves. Because again, I'm talking about people that are not necessarily socially, they're not a social butterfly. They're not the most articulate. They're not the most mentally cognitive. I mean, these people have problems sometimes, and they need help. They don't need to be thrown into a camp and then tortured into conforming. And I know someone that, I'm not going to say who it is or my relation with them in any way, but I believe that they've been brainwashed. I believe that they have been indoctrinated. They're extremely codependent. They have been their entire life, and they required somebody to tell them what to do. Otherwise, they can't function properly. And recently, it's come to my attention that they no longer do anything. They no longer respond to any outside arguments besides that one person that they've become codependent on. And I don't know the specifics, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. It's years and years of them on their own and me somewhere else. And I don't know what to do, because the only way to get them out of that situation would be to forcibly kidnap them or somehow remove the person controlling them forever, because if they ever come back, they would just immediately latch onto them. So I've met several people, like you see somebody who's a mama's boy, or who's always listening to their parents because that's all they've ever done their entire life is obey. And again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with somebody earning your respect, somebody earning the right to say, this is right, this is wrong, please trust me on this. There are people that have earned that in my life. I believe that I have earned that in other people's lives, where they see me as somebody that is at sometimes brutally honest or willing to sacrifice for the sake of being truthful. And it's not always easy. I mean, just yesterday, and this is the thing, we had a waiter, because it wasn't really a waiter. We went to Jim's, which is kind of a restaurant-y thing. We were celebrating. We hadn't gone out in a really, really long time, and I had just gotten out from the thing, and I have some money. So we went to Jim's, and we had some food. The waiter was very interesting. He was very talkative. He was very kind of interactive, and I thought it was really nice. But there was I completely lost what I was talking about. Oh, that's what it was. He didn't charge us for our drink. My brother got a soda. I had a water, but he didn't charge it. I didn't even look at the receipt until we were going up to the counter, and I looked at it. It's like he didn't charge us for our drink. And I was thinking to myself, if I tell him, he's going to charge me for this drink. If I don't tell him, he's not going to charge me for the drink. And I had this internal debate in my head. And I was like, should I tell him or should I not? And I shouldn't have had that. I mean, it's greed. Money doesn't matter, but I have the money to protect and to aid and to benefit others. So it was this conflict: is I don't need the money, but other people need the money. But I spent the money. It shouldn't be mine. It's not mine. It's stealing at this point. And so when I got to the counter, I said, you know what? I would feel as if I have broken my integrity. My integrity would be tarnished if I didn't say something. And I said, hey, you didn't charge us for the drink. And he just said, shh, don't worry about it. And I was a little confused, but I wasn't going to make a scene about it. And I felt that, I did at least the minimum of what I should have done. I shouldn't necessarily force it. I don't know why he did it. We did leave a small tip, so that would have paid for the drink. So I don't know exactly where this lies in the moral spectrum, but it's just I had that debate in my head. It's like, should I tell him or shouldn't I tell him? And then I felt bad about having that debate in my head. And so when I talk about what we should do or what we shouldn't do in this context of manipulation, in this context of, and I know I keep jumping around, but when it comes to helping somebody, what do I do? How do I help this person that I honestly believe has been brainwashed, extensively brainwashed, to the point where they can't, they couldn't function before without somebody, but they were never taught to. They could have been, but instead they were taught to rely more and more on that. And there's a lot of context between most cults are religious in their formatting, but that doesn't mean that they're actually religious. It's just the format they use because it's easily known. So you just kind of accept it. That's what they push: accept, don't question. But this is an individual pushing this onto another person. So while it is religious in its context, it's also based off of, you should trust me above all else, not necessarily the scriptures that they're being taught. And that it's just another complication on top of everything. So what do I do, and what should I try to do? Because just doing something is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. But what should I want to do is another question, because I am not their keeper. I am not someone that can just say, hey, your entire life is a lie, and a damaging one at that. So I'm going to break your entire worldview, crush you, and reformat your mind to comply with mine instead of theirs. And that makes me just as bad as the person that did it to them the first time. And so it's deprogramming so that they can reboot their mind and be themselves. But they don't have a self. They never had a self. Maybe when they were very young, because I'm talking about indoctrination from childhood, from infancy almost. And they've never had a chance to be away from this person. They've never had a chance to build their own personality. I have never seen them be themselves. I've seen them be happy, I've seen them be sad, but it was always under this encompassment of, I have to be a certain way or I'm wrong. And it's painful to see, and it's confusing to think about, because there's a lot of people that have it much worse off than that. They're indoctrinated to harm others specifically. It's what the terrorists do. And there's people that are indoctrinated to believe that their leader is a god and that they must obey or they will have horrible consequences because they're literally working for God, and that's North Korea. So there are places that are just infinitely worse. But I know this person, and it's hard to separate that in my mind of, I want to help and I feel like I should, but I also feel like if I try, I might hurt them more. And because we all know the conundrum of change is painful, and therefore it has to be your choice to change. Somebody shouldn't force that onto you because it does hurt you, and it has to be, and you'll just revert back after they stop pushing you. So there's also that worry that no matter how much I help them, they'll just revert back once I stop pushing. So it's my sacrifice of hurting them forever until they die, pretty much. And it's a very, very hard thing to think about. I want to do something, but I don't think I will, because unless I figure something out, I don't have a solution. I don't even fully know the problem. So, and I can't know the solution until I know the problem. But to seek out a solution might cause problems as well. So just seeking to understand might cause some ripples and then response. So I don't want that to happen either. But I guess that's it. There's always more to talk about. There's always more to think about. And I hope this was informative for you guys. I hope this was, it's not going to be entertaining. This isn't something that I would go, way. But I hope that you will come back for the next video. I honestly hope that, because I'm going to make a video right after this one, and it's going to be about something that is very important to me, even more important than what I'm talking about right now. And I really, really hope that these videos are helping people. So just to understand, or just to be able to watch and say, I'm going to think about that more. I'm going to look into that a little bit. Just that's why I'm making these. That's why I'm trying to be as clear as I can, even though it may muddle things up. I honestly think that these little tangents I go on to are fully explain at least my thought process. So it might take more than one viewing, I guess, is what I'm saying. Is I'm not just rambling for the sake of hearing myself talk. I'm honestly trying to explain something. So please, if you have any questions, if you have any desire to add to the conversation, please post them in the comments, or make your own video, and you can link them. I'll watch them. So just have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video, and peace.